President Biden announcing an additional $375 million military aid package for Ukraine. The president meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky at the G7 summit in Japan yesterday, promising the U.S. will stand by Ukraine's side in its war effort as Zelensky compares destruction in his country to Hiroshima.
I'm here in Hiroshima so that the world can hear the Ukrainian call for unity from here. Instead of cities, there is a scorched wasteland. Instead of houses, only rubble. And we dream of rebuilding all our cities that are now in ruins, and every village where not a single house is left intact after Russian strikes.
Let's bring in retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, good morning. What's your takeaway from the G7 and that speech and the meetings?
Well, for the G7, I think the major thing is just the focus itself, Brett. It was on China and Russia. And the reality is they want to stop China from getting advanced technologies. They want to push back on China's economic coercion around the world, particularly in developing nations, where the United States and these leading democracies are finding themselves having less influence in Africa, in Latin America, in South Asia, and also recently in the Middle East. And also they want to push back on China's militarism in the South China Sea and Taiwan Straits, and certainly the aggression they're displaying to Taiwan on a regular basis. And then with Russia, I mean, there's absolutely a commitment here to support Ukraine, and the visibility they gave to Zelensky certainly is obvious in underscoring that. And secondly, they want to make certain that they're curbing the sanctions, those countries that are participating in it, because as you know, over time, countries have a way of getting around the sanctions. And that's become visible now to the United States and others. And we're going after 20 individuals, 104 entities in 22 countries. So it's pretty significant play here to try to close the loopholes that are there. Those are the major takeaways.
There's obviously a disparity in between what the Russians say about the offensive operations in Bakhmut and what President Zelensky says. As we look at a map of Ukraine, we've been talking about the possibility of this counteroffensive. Where are we right now as far as what's happening from your perspective?
Well, in terms of Bakhmut, listen, the Russians chose this as symbology to achieve a victory 10 months ago. And they wanted to use Bakhmut as the entry into taking the rest of the Donetsk region. It has no military significance. It's 70,000 people. It's not a strategic city like a province or an industrial base at a port. But they committed themselves to it, and they took a huge amount of casualties. The Ukrainians decided to stay the course, even though it didn't have military value, because they were destroying so many Russians in the fighting that was taking place, and they knew they wouldn't have to fight them later. Where do we stand in that city now? I think the Ukrainians have some small part of the city left. They've been on the outskirts doing counterattacks to prevent the Russians from using the city as they planned initially as a start point for something bigger. That will not happen due to the casualties and also due to the terrain the Ukrainians are occupying. Big picture, the Ukrainians are getting ready for this offensive in a couple of weeks for sure, and we expect them to retake territory and be somewhat decisive in being able to do that. And this is a big play, certainly for Zelensky, in liberating his people, but also in maintaining the support he has from the United States-led coalition.
Yeah. Last thing, there's a lot of concern up on Capitol Hill, not just from Republicans, but others, about making sure we know where the money's going, where the weapons are going. Now you have the Pentagon saying there's an accounting error, not a small one, $3 billion. The National Security Advisor was on this weekend talking about that. Take a listen.
Not one penny of U.S. dollars will have gone missing or have been misallocated. It will all be provided in the form of equipment to Ukraine on the battlefield. But of course, it would be better to get it right in terms of the accounting up front. In the end, though, the Pentagon discovered the error, the Pentagon corrected the error, and Ukraine will get what it needs, and the American taxpayer will be able to be confident that this money is being spent effectively and appropriately.
General, you've been on the logistics side, accounting for things inside the Army and elsewhere in the Pentagon. $3 billion is not a a small mistake.
Yeah, the thing about the Pentagon is, Brett, everything is big. So even in an accounting area, I mean, it's hard to get your head around a $3 billion accounting area. But when you're dealing with the Pentagon, size is really a factor here. They caught it, they're fixing it, and let's get on with helping the Ukrainians. And by the way, the Ukrainians are working pretty hard on making certain that there's not corruption, which they've certainly had in the past inside their government and their country. They're holding people accountable who have misused some of the equipment, or pushed contracts in the wrong way. They're facing criminal prosecution. They've been fired. So that's a step in the right direction. I'm not being Pollyannish about it. I'm not saying there couldn't be problems, but they are facing the realities of what they're dealing with. They got to make certain the equipment and the money gets to the right place.
General Keane, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks.